are some of the top 2 or 3 key skills you needed to learn and develop?
Ooh, man. So top 2 or 3 skills.
Yeah, like the king skills.
I want to say communication.
Communication.
But one thing about communication though is when we say that, it means listening. Because you got to know who it is that you're talking to, and who's talking back. So like you and I, for example, we're having a conversation, and it's funny because I use a lot of this so when I started this, I would study so many different things, whether it was NLP, which is neurological linguistic programming, right? Which is where a certain way to speak, and it gets people to kind of like really like lean in towards to what you're saying, pauses and all that, communication, right? But I also studied divorce attorneys stuff, right? So like just YouTube things, not just the attorney, excuse me, but what happens during a divorce. And one of the main things was when there's a couple in court and they're arguing against one another, it's always this guy is saying something, or the husband saying something, the wife is saying something back, and neither of them are listening to what they're saying, but they're actually agreeing with one another, which is wild, And I see the same thing within my own family sometimes, where there's an argument happening, and they're both agreeing with one another, but they don't hear it because what they're doing is they're saying their perspective, her perspective, his perspective, but they're saying the exact same thing. They're arguing about the same thing, and if they just listened to one another, they would figure out like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, we both hate doing the dishes. Oh my goodness. I was like, because that could have been the answer right there. That's like a plain example. Wait a minute. Did you just say that you hate doing the dishes? I hate doing the dishes too. Like, okay, why don't we compromise? You do dishes Monday through Wednesday. I'll do it Wednesday through Friday, or whatever it is. So communication definitely number one out of the 1 to 3 skill sets of being an entrepreneur or as a successful real estate agent is communicating by being able to listen to what the other party is saying. Because that's probably far more important than what you have to say. I mean, not saying that one side is less important, but when it comes to and this is going to lead me into the number 2 is so communication. Once you've learned the skill of actually listening, and then reiterating what that person said back to you, so that they feel and know that you actually are listening to what they need, because too, this is a service industry. So that's one thing that I learned too is, and it's also a hard mountain or hump to get over, is getting to the level of service. Remembering that that we are here to serve rather than here to serve others rather than to serve ourselves. And the reason I said it's a hard hump to get over in the very beginning is because when most agents start or entrepreneurs start, they need that capital. They need to have funds in order to do the next thing, right? So they need to build profit. So that's what everybody thinks entrepreneurship's all about is, okay, I want to become a business owner and an entrepreneur because I want to get rich. So all people think about is that the dollar bills, the dollar symbols. And so they think about themselves only, like, okay, if I close this house, I'm going to make this much, rather a better mindset would be, okay, I was like, if I work with this person, they can finally get to the big island to where they want to be with their family, or they can finally sell their condominium that they bought as first-time home buyers so that they can they can sell it so that they can buy their dream home, which was what their plan was. And then once we close on their dream home, we can come back and say, oh my gosh, you guys remember when you guys bought this condo for the reason of selling it to buy this dream house? Like, you guys did it, man, And so just remembering what that person's goal was, right? Or their goals were, I think is very important. So communicating that, learning what it is, and then remembering that, learning how to serve others. And again, I know in the very beginning, it's very hard because we all have to come out of it. Because in the very beginning, that's the reason why I got into real estate was to make money, in the very beginning. And I'm saying that twice because in case the video gets cut off, or gets cut into pieces, that'll be like the one thing that gets taken out is
all the context.
Like, oh, he just wants to make money.
All the context.
He's just freaking.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, and then getting over that, and then eventually, But again, we talked about this before too many times. Is you got to help yourself first before you can help others. That analogy, the analogy you told me before, which is great. In the airplanes, putting on the masks first before you help the person next to you, right? Because if you don't have a mask on, in the airplane, if it's going down, you're out cold. You can't help the next
Yeah.
person next to you
Exactly.
at all. And if this person doesn't know how to help himself, then you both screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, definitely learn how to help yourself first before you can help others. But keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that it's about serving others. That's just the way to grow wealth and happiness. Oh, excuse me, to grow your business, to become wealthy and successful if that's what you want. But then at the same time being happy. It's the only way to serve others. I think those are like probably the main two things that I really had to learn, or rather sharpen, was communicating. Because I go back to this a lot because it's a huge one for me, which has helped me a lot in relationships that I'm in now with friends, family, being able to like really listen to what they're saying. I like to talk to my nieces and nephews, and I always hear nothing bad about my cousins and their parents, but hey, how was school today? And the kid goes, it was good. Oh, okay, good, that's good. It's like, figure out why. Why was it good? What was your favorite part about today? Such a simple question to ask these young ones, and they just go off about why, and then they go on tangents, which is awesome. And then that's, I think, what we should be doing with clients and customers is figuring out what makes you happy. Tell me more about that. And then that's kind of how that relationship builds. And so which leads me to number 3 now is relationships. Building relationships and keeping them. So you and I, we met more than a decade ago, going through our own things. You were a personal trainer at the time, and I was over here just trying to get fit, separately. But here and there, it's not like you and I were like boys back then, not yet, But then over the years, you opened your gym, I got into real estate, we reconnected, because of that entrepreneurial mindset, like a magnet. And then that started. And then you and I would still stay in contact, whether it was like months, once a month or maybe once every 6 months, whatever it was. We kept that relationship going, and every time we did meet, it would be valuable for the both of us because we'd come together and we'd talk about things that we failed at, things that we won at, what can we do better? So I think those are the 3 main things for me. There's many more. And notice I never even mentioned anything about sales too. Nothing about sales. Because still to this day, as a full-time real estate agent now for 6 years, right? I consider myself fairly successful when I compare myself to where I was 6 years ago. And I'm talking about not just like the money that I'm now making, but with the amount of people that I'm now serving, right? Because that's what that equals out to. And so 6 years ago, I didn't know what I was doing, so that's kind of like how I learned all these 3 things: communicating, learning what the people want, serving others. And then 3, again, none of this had even to do with sales. Really, that's just my deep opinion on it, because 6 years later, I still don't feel like a salesman, which is awesome, because I never wanted to feel like a salesperson. I never even thought of myself as a salesperson, even when I saw what Realtor S stands for. So when you become a licensed real estate agent in the state of Hawaii, they give you this abbreviation. It's an R and an S, and then you have your license number. It stands for Realtor Salesperson. That's what the S stands for. Yeah, and I had no idea. I was just like, oh, crap. I was like, well, I guess I gotta do it. Like this is what it is. But 6 years later, I can proudly say that I still don't feel like a salesperson at all, and I think it is because I keep these 3 things with me, the communication, serving others, and just knowing that it's about relationships and all that.